5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Got some excellent articles today. It's not Friday yet. We'll clean up tomorrow. Let's dive right in. First of all, I started sending out my invitations to the AI ROI Webinar, guaranteed 90-day ROI, and I got some registrations already. So I'm kind of pleased because I only sent out a couple hundred, mostly to Boston, which I'm going to go visit in the middle of October. So if you're out there in Boston, mark your calendar for the 17th. Let's get together. And you can register before I even send you a connect on wdma.org, just your name and email, and I'll keep you posted on the, probably I'm going to use YouTube for the webinar. It's the simplest one, I think. Anyway, and I can restream here. Let's dive in. Okay, remember, I got this super connected up. Remember how I was saying how this driverless car thing is probably premature, but the idea of a delivery robot, now that makes some sense. I'm not sure quite how they get it to your porch or your door or in your mailbox or whatever. Other than that little detail, the idea of driving packages around at a relatively low speed on back streets makes a ton of sense compared to driving cars around on busy streets with lots of pedestrians and other things. So they just raised another $40 million. I think we'll be watching that one. I'll keep you posted. Here's an interesting one. Domino's is in the center of an internet accessibility fight, and the issue is that this Guillermo Robles is blind, and he says you couldn't order pizza. Okay, it was not possible to order pizza from Domino's if you're blind. Now, I don't know. Seems like you could call. That's what I do. I keep my Domino's phone on speed dial, and you could say to your phone, hey, call Domino's, and it would know where to go. So I have a little trouble with this thing. And I have a lot of trouble with the courts forcing Domino's to make their web browser blind compatible. Not sure how you do that. Just frankly, I'm not sure. I'm not blind. There's probably some way to do it, but I think when there's an obvious, simple answer, which is talk to your phone, order pizza. I regularly order from Domino's when I go to church. We have board meetings, and they send it right over to the church, and I have it on speed dial, and I do it while I'm driving. It's not hard. So this should not be all the way to the Supreme Court. But this is the kind of nutty, brings to mind another one of these, where the University of Berkeley, because they had 20,000 hours of coursework online free. So if you want to talk about free college, if anybody wants to say there ought to be free college, there is. Okay? Right there. And the Justice Department ruled that because the courses didn't have subtitles, they weren't accessible to deaf people. And I agree with that, but it would cost millions of dollars to put them up there. So rather than inconvenience the deaf, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do our best, and like the article says, we should have maybe Berkeley should have taken that into account in the first place. But because of the complexity now, and this was under the Obama administration where this got started, and the other one started in 2016, so I'm assuming that was also. So some of this fairness stuff, there's an old joke that in Russia, one neighbor comes to the local community organizer and says, it's not fair, my neighbor has a cow. I don't have a cow. And the organizer says, well, do you want a cow? maybe we can get you one. He said, no, I want you to shoot the cow the neighbor has. And that's a little bit the way this stuff works. Anyway, somebody, LBRY is the site. I don't know if it's .com, .org, I don't know what. But apparently they scraped off the 20,000 hours. But the fact is we have free college to anybody that wants to put in the time. And we just have to access it. So, my word, oh my word. And on another government note, I organized a bunch of them today. Sorry, I've got the allergies going. CCPA is on its way. Heather, wonderful article by Heather. She points out all of the nuttiness about it. For one thing, the EU took 3 years to put this legislation together, and there are some huge penalties potential. Now, obviously, but unlike the EU, there's a little more warning involved, and if you do take steps, then you're okay. But the legislation was written very poorly, and Heather points this out, and I really like this article in Target Marketing. And for one thing, as an example, if someone contacts a cataloger today and says, I want my name, I don't want you mailing me anymore, and I don't want you renting my name. What we do is we flag it as a suppress. And what we do is we put that list of suppressed names into our mail processing so that we make sure we don't send them more catalogs. Now, CCPA, my reading, doesn't allow that. CCPA says you have to delete the record. Once you delete the record, now it's not there now. This is the right to be forgotten. I can forget you, but that doesn't mean another company might not. So if I go rent LL Bean and you just bought from them and you didn't tell them not to rent you, you have to, if you're going to keep alive and buying online, you're going to keep spreading your name around. So if I rent your name, or for example, if you go on Netflix and try a free couple of week trial, in there it says, and I agree to let my name be used for offers. You might even agree to that to get the free offer. And then I go and say, well, okay, I'm going to rent some of those names that are interested in women's apparel or something. Now you get a catalog from me. Now you come back and you say to the neighborhood organizer in California, okay, they mailed me and I told them not to. Now, we might be able to track that back to where it came from and explain it, but it's going to cost us a fortune, right? So, the best route, as Heather points out, is to not comply, to say, no, I'm not going to delete your record. I might say I did, but I'm going to rather keep your record and make sure I don't use it anymore, even if I rent outside lists, and especially if I rent outside lists that you did not opt out of. So I have in every other state the right to use your name. It's been done for 150 years. But in order to comply with your wishes, I can't comply with CCPA. Okay, and there's a couple other quirky things. You're supposed to know what personal data is being collected. They put some amendments in here that says we don't have to delete everything ultimately. But, one of the problems we have is that, you may request the details of what you may request access to your personal data. Well, your personal data, we build 150 variables with your purchase. You might have bought a vacuum cleaner, but you might have given it as a gift, and it might have been a Christmas purchase, and, all those things. So there's a lot going on. If I sent you the pages and pages and pages of variables that we've created, you wouldn't have a clue what it was about. So then I would have to send you documentation that probably doesn't even exist on all the ways that your information connects and is relative to other customers and how we use it, it's not going to make a bit of sense. So it's a mess. And Heather points out that the California law was written in 5 days. And GDPR took 3 years, and it's kind of a mess on its own. It's a mess. It's a mess. What do you think? I think it's a mess. I think California really shouldn't be allowed to write its own rules and be its own country. But that's what I think. With the GDPR, I unilaterally unsubscribed all of my LinkedIn connections to my email newsletter because the risk is too high. Anyway, got some great stuff for tomorrow. I promise we'll do Ritson and we'll do you. You is YU. It's my friend Steven. And he's got a great article on why so many marketing automation projects go south. And I don't think that's about relaxed labor laws in Georgia. Have a great day. Like and